Hello and welcome to the online version of the workshop presentation for our Cambie Corridor Phase 3 Fall 2015 workshop series. This online presentation recaps the information presented at the Phase 3 workshops for Sub-Area 3 held on October 26th and 29th, 2015. This workshop is focused on the Queen Elizabeth and Oak Ridge neighborhoods, discussing the area from about West 32nd Avenue to West 42nd Avenue and from Oak Street to Ontario Street. Supporting materials used at the workshop are available at vancouver.ca/Cambie Corridor. The workshop started with this introductory and overview presentation, followed by a session looking at the proposed Phase 3 focus areas, and a second session looking at the unique sites and areas within the neighborhood. The session was wrapped up with a short questionnaire to get participant feedback on the workshop itself. We're excited to get the dialogue started and look forward to a respectful and productive workshop series. We are here to listen. This means that success is hearing from everyone who wants to share their perspective today. It means providing a safe and accommodating environment for input, engaging in respectful dialogue, and acknowledging that every participant brings information, points of view, and ideas to contribute. Many of you are likely familiar with the Cambie Corridor Plan, but as a reminder, it's intended to guide new growth and development in the Cambie Corridor with a plan for land use, supporting infrastructure, and amenities. It's intended to provide clarity about what can or can't be done with a property. Cambie Corridor planning started in 2009 with the terms of reference outlining a three-phased planning process. In 2010, Phase 1 set high-level planning principles to guide planning for the overall corridor. In 2011, a plan was prepared to guide land use and building form for properties along major streets in the corridor, and to provide some early guidance on amenities, public benefits, and the design of the public realm. This plan is guiding the new development underway in the corridor today. We are now in Phase 3 with the objective to explore opportunities for more ground-oriented housing and more options for families with children. It is also an opportunity to explore options and considerations for unique sites or areas within the corridor. And Phase 3 will further coordinate amenities and public benefits and provide more direction for the design of public space. When talking about Phase 3 focus areas, people often ask what we mean by ground-oriented housing. Ground-oriented housing can take several forms, and the following few slides provide some examples of the more common ground-oriented housing types. Townhouses are a key form. This example shows a courtyard row house with a row of units at the front of the property and a row at the back. This configuration creates a courtyard space in the middle of the site. Stacked townhomes are another form with units above and below one another, each with their own door to the ground level or outdoor space. Townhousing can also take the form of a traditional row house with units arranged side by side, having access from both the front and rear of the site. Triplexes are another form of ground-oriented housing, and these can be arranged with units one above the other or located side by side on the site. Duplexes are another type of ground-oriented housing, with dwellings arranged either front to back or side by side on the site. Small house infill at the lane with a single-family house or duplex is another form, and this is often done with heritage properties. So why do Phase 3? Phase 3 provides an opportunity to advance citywide goals around affordability, livability, and sustainability. We know the Cambie Corridor and the overall city have a large number of single-family homes and apartment options, without a lot of options in between. Phase 3 can begin to explore more housing options to fill this gap in the housing continuum. We also know there's a lot of development activity happening in Phase 2 areas along the major streets, and Phase 3 provides an opportunity to create a built-form transition to surrounding single-family areas. It's also an opportunity to create greater clarity and certainty about the future of shoulder areas beyond Phase 2. And Phase 3 provides an avenue to explore more housing options for Vancouver's diverse and growing population, especially for families with children. The Phase 3 planning process started in spring 2015, and we're now nearing the end of Step 1 of a 4-step process that's expected to take about 2 years. And through the Fall 2015 workshop series, we want to specifically talk about the proposed focus areas for exploring potential change. We'd like to confirm and refine the focus areas with the input from these workshops, and we'd like to explore how different ground-oriented housing types, like townhouses, could fit in these focus areas. We'd also like to talk about some of the unique sites and areas within the corridor, discussing what's important about these sites or areas, and getting feedback on key considerations for future change. The workshops for the Queen Elizabeth and Oak Ridge area, also referred to as Sub-Area 3, are the 5th and 6th workshop of 11 we will be holding in 6 sub-areas in the overall corridor. We're holding these workshops throughout October and November, moving from north to south, engaging in local level discussion and getting input from each of the unique neighborhoods along the corridor. While this workshop is on focus areas and unique sites, we know there's more to talk about in Phase 3. Future dialogue will include discussion of things like transportation, public amenities, the design of public space, and housing policy. So how will the workshop input be used? The feedback and input will be collected at each of the workshops. It will then be taken away and analyzed by staff, both from a technical and policy lens, thinking about things like housing, character and heritage considerations, urban design, and the overall objectives of Phase 3. That analysis will be used to prepare recommendations in combination with policy development as we move through the next steps in the planning process. And there will be ongoing consultation throughout Phase 3. Before getting into the workshop discussion on focus areas, we want to provide a bit of background on the corridor and its population. We know the corridor has a high proportion of households with children, at about 29%, compared to 22% in the city overall. This is consistent for the central portion of the corridor, the area of discussion at this workshop. About 34% of the corridor population indicates Chinese languages as their mother tongue. This is about 44% in the central portion of the corridor. As is typical in other South Vancouver neighborhoods, the corridor is predominantly single family, with a majority of owners versus renters, and about 56% of dwelling units in the central portion of the corridor are in a single family house. Within the corridor, there is a unique concentration of heritage and character homes in the King Edward area north of 25th Avenue. About 63% of single-family dwellings in this area, north of King Edward, were built before 1940. This is an important consideration for Phase 3, as this changes notably moving south of King Edward Avenue. We are now going to get started in the first part of the workshop, looking at the proposed focus areas. We worked through a number of criteria for the overall corridor and feel we are fairly close in defining a focus area for discussing potential change. The focus areas are shown in gray on the map to the right. Unique sites are shown in blue and will be discussed later in the presentation. The focus area criteria looked at areas one block off Phase 2 apartment areas that are covered by the approved Cambie Corridor Plan policy. It also includes areas adjacent to major project sites, like the RCMP site and Langara Gardens. The criteria also looks at a buffer area in Marpole, west of Phase 2 properties on Cambie Street, and this is based on direction from the Marpole plan. The criteria also includes property along Oak Street, building on the Marpole plan and Oak Ridge Langara policy statement, and this will look at both sides of Oak Street. This slide shows the specific portion of the corridor under discussion at this workshop. It generally stretches from West 32nd Avenue to West 42nd Avenue and from Oak to Ontario Street. The next few slides show more detail about the neighborhood under discussion at this workshop. The blocks shown in black are the Phase 2 areas with approved policy. This is where the corridor is seeing construction of new mid-rise apartment buildings based on the approved Cambie Corridor Plan. Policy for Phase 2 areas provides direction for mid-rise development, typically in a 6-story form, with buildings transitioning higher near Canada Line stations. These developments also transition to townhomes or step building features to scale down the height at the lane. Here's a sketch from the Cambie Corridor Plan showing the mid-rise forms envisioned along Cambie Street. Many of these sites are currently under development. Phase 3 shifts the focus of discussion to the areas in behind. These areas in yellow are the blocks we want to discuss for potential change as part of Phase 3. The yellow area indicates the proposed focus area for discussion of potential change and new housing options. These are the areas under discussion during these workshops. The areas in blue are the unique sites and will be discussed later in the presentation. These include the St. Vincent's site on Heather, the Youville and Holy Name of Jesus Church block, the Sean Oaks Apartments on Oak Street and the neighboring Louis Brier Home and Hospital, as well as the three corners at the intersection of Cambie Street and 41st Avenue, which is based on direction from the Cambie Corridor Plan to further investigate the future of these sites through Phase 3. This slide shows the key areas we are discussing at this workshop in yellow and blue. This neighborhood also includes major project sites shown in orange. These are not the focus of discussion at these Phase 3 workshops, as they're addressed through their own comprehensive planning processes. Again, we think we're fairly close with the proposed focus areas based on the criteria and background work done to date. And through the workshops, we want to work with the community to review the focus areas, confirm they're in the right locations, discuss any rationale for adjustments or other key considerations, and gather feedback from the community. To support the discussion of Phase 3 focus areas, a ground-oriented housing ideas book has been prepared. This is a collection of possible housing types to start the discussion of potential new options for Phase 3 focus areas. We expect this document and the options within it to evolve moving forward in the process. This slide shows a few images of the housing types shown in the booklet, and I encourage you to check out the booklet online at vancouver.ca/Cambie Corridor under the Documents tab. Also available on the website is the Cambie Corridor Community Profile, covering off a range of more detailed information and background on the corridor. So we think we're fairly close with the proposed focus areas and want to roll up our sleeves through each of the workshops to answer the following key questions. Do we have the focus areas right? If not, where should adjustments be considered? And importantly, why? And what do you think of the housing ideas? Some things to keep in mind. What is the relationship between the focus areas and Phase 2 areas? What kind of housing choices are available in the neighborhood? Are there a range of family housing options in the area? How might lot patterns and sizes influence the focus areas? What's happening next door or across the street or lane? And are there heritage or character elements to consider?
And now we move on to the second part of our presentation, focusing on unique sites. Unique sites are different than the focus areas. They are typically larger sites with unique conditions. For example, they may have rental or seniors housing on them. They may have commercial uses, or they may provide city serving or even regional or provincial serving functions. Also, most of them have been flagged in previous planning and policy work. For example, the Riley Park South Cambie Community Vision, the Oakridge-Langara Policy Statement, or the Cambie Corridor Phase 2 Plan. Some of this planning work is over 20 years old at this time. For Sub-Area 3, there are 3 unique site areas: the St. Vincent's Precinct, Sean Oaks and Louis Brier, and the 3 corner sites across from Oakridge Centre at 41st and Cambie. These sites are an important part of the corridor fabric, and we want to discuss their role in the neighborhood now and into the future. As noted, these sites are all very unique, with different existing assets and offering different opportunities, requiring a thoughtful site-by-site exploration in the planning process. The site to the north of this precinct was formerly St. Vincent's Hospital. It is now under control of Providence Healthcare Society and has been since 1997. Providence has a long-standing intention to redevelop the site as a campus of care, providing a continuum of integrated services geared to seniors and those in need of complex care. The first phase was completed in 2010 with the opening of Honoria Conway Residence, which includes senior supportive and assisted housing and a community care facility, all on the east side of the site. The second phase included the St. Paul II Pastoral Center on the west side of the site. The central and northern portions of the site remain undeveloped. As this site continues to evolve as a healthcare precinct, we want to explore its role and potential in the Cambie Corridor. While they are 2 separate parcels, Youville Residence and Holy Name of Jesus Roman Catholic Church share a parking lot and the same comprehensive development zoning. Youville Residence on the western portion of the site is a seniors care facility with 79 beds that was built in 1960. Holy Name Parish is a Roman Catholic church that was also built in 1961. It is on the city's recent landmarks inventory, recognized for its unique architecture, as shown in the photo in the top right corner. This site was included in the Phase 2 planning area with consideration of residential development on the site. Planning in Phase 3 will explore retention of the heritage asset in the church and look at opportunities for maximizing the use of the remainder of this precinct. Sean Oaks, located on the northern portion of this site, includes 72 strata apartment units in 5 wood frame buildings. This complex was built in 1968 and 1969. At almost 50 years old, these buildings are aging. And of note, one of the unique features of this property are the significant trees on the site, as noted in the Oak Ridge Langara policy statement. And immediately to the south of this site is the Louis Breyer site. This includes a long-term care facility with 218 beds and was built in 1968. The Weinberg residence includes 40 assisted living apartments and 20 care rooms, and this was built more recently in 2002. At almost 50 years old, the original facility also is aging. And the last unique site for this sub-area is the 3 corners located at Cambie and 41st Avenue. The Cambie Corridor Plan Phase 2 policy allows up to 12 stories on these corner sites. Phase 2 includes direction to revisit these 3 corners in Phase 3 planning. Now here you see a map including the envisioned built form along the arterial streets through the Cambie Phase 2 planning program, and you see the 3 corner sites noted in yellow. Some things to consider as we explore the future of these 3 corner sites include potential impacts on existing and anticipated development on the surrounding Phase 3 areas, as well as determining the appropriate relationships between mid-rise and potential tower building forms along Cambie Street. So we really are scratching the surface on these unique sites at this time, but we want to understand what's important to you and what matters to you about these sites. We want to address policy gaps and update existing policy, recognizing changes may be appropriate as time passes. And we want to explore how these sites could evolve in the next 30 years. The workshop is supported by profile sheets such as this. They include site and policy information, photos, and maps to help familiarize you. These are all available online. So for the unique sites, we want to understand what's important to you about these sites and what are some things we need to consider when thinking about the future of these sites. So this concludes our presentation for Area 3 of our Fall Workshop series that took place on October 26th and 29th. We look forward to your continued participation and thank you for watching.